Welcome to another Wargame review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at a new-ish game from Compass Games. And this is a follow-up to their Commands and Colors Tricorn game. This is Commands and Colors Tricorn Jacobite Rising.
Yeah.
It's designed by Richard Borg, as you may well have imagined, it being Commands and Colors. He's the father of that system and designs all of them. But this is... It uses the Commands and Colors Tricorn system. So Tricorn came out a couple of years ago, 2017 or 18?
Yeah, I want to say 17.
And they that's kind of Compass Games' own take on that period. And then this uses that same core system. So having the combat card decks, the way they've incorporated morale into these, and also the time period is similar enough, which is why they're able to do that. So
yeah, this would have been in the 17.
I think it's like the early. It's like
1710, 1720.
Yeah, I think this was 1719. I think the one we played.
Right.
Where Amrev is 50, 60 years
1770,
later, but similar enough concepts and how they conduct warfare. So if you've played Tricorn, these rules are almost identical.
Yep. We actually talked about that. I'm not sure that there's anything that's really different other than the units. Some of the units have different abilities and Highlanders and other than that, I think the system is the same. The morale checks, the leader benefits and bonuses, the cards are even very, I think, comparable. Yeah, they have the only thing that's like really new and different is you have these clan leader tokens. Yeah. Which, but you've got your different clans all fighting together, and your clan leader is a little token, and you put it on a unit of regular guys, and they effectively get a lot of the bonuses that leaders would provide without having an actual leader in there. So where normally you have a leader who's attached or behind giving support. Yeah. If they're attached, they get a bonus die.
Yeah, and combat and morale checks and things like that.
But that is and they can die. That's the big difference. That leader that's attached can die if all those units are... I think with this leader token, it's just assumed they die, and it's not a separate
it's just
concept.
It's like this... these four blocks are just a little bit better than the rest of them. Yeah. They got their main leader with them. Yeah, that's really all it is.
This guy.
Yeah, that's the main thing that's actually different. Movement's the same. The way you... do melee, do combat, do the morale checks. All that stuff is the same core game. Yeah. And if you've never played Commands and Colors, it's a card-driven game in a way. You have your hand of command cards, and they come from a shared deck that we're both going to draw from. Yep. And based on the scenario, you'll have anywhere from 5 to 7. And they will tell you, issue this many orders in this section of the board. And the board's divided into 3 segments. You got the left flank, the right flank, and the center. And so it might say, issue 2 orders on the left, or issue 1 order in each of the 3 sections, or issue 1 order to every infantry on the right. Yeah. And so you'll look through your hand of cards. Okay, I want to be able to activate here or here, but maybe you don't have the cards to do that. So you're at the mercy of your hand of cards and trying to make the best of that and do attacks where it's opportune. But these are big hexes, they're blocks of units, and so it keeps wargaming very simple. Yeah. It's not a complicated system in any way.
This is by far it's a simple wargame that is designed as an entry into the concept of combat and wargaming.
And it does that very effectively. And you can tell based on how many of these games they've made.
Yeah, well...
Like, if you make a Commands and Colors game...
It's going to sell well.
I don't want to say it's printing money.
Yeah,
but for war games, it may as well be, because they will always be popular, because these will reach a much wider audience than some of the much more complicated and long games that are out there.
And it's much like many of the other series that we like coin games. There's different eras. There's modern, there's ancients, and then kind of in between. The same here. You've got ancients. Yeah. And you got Napoleonics. You've even got Memoir 44, which is World War II.
Yeah, there's World War I. Yeah. There's like a samurai one on the way.
It's like soon from GMT, and I'm very excited about that. Because that was a one that was made by Zvezda many years ago that required miniature formulation and creation.
They were
3D printing before 3D.
They were pretty nice looking.
Yeah.
But they were so fragile, and you get so many of them, and you're just expected to toss them in this box. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So the G&G's turning that into a blockable game, which I'm excited for. But
yeah.
This series has a very good reputation,
mm-hmm.
And this is another title in that series. So if you like Tricorn, this is more Tricorn, basically.
Yeah, I feel like it's just Tricorn with a different theme.
Different theme, different settings. And there's enough in here where you get, like, the gameplay is, you get differences on the battlefield through the nuances of your units. For example, the Highland Elite units.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of those in this scenario, and they perform very differently from a lot of the other infantry units.
They can't do ranged combat. They don't have muskets. They have claymores and pikes and sword. I mean, that's what they got. So you got to run them up into combat. But, when you get them up in there, they get a bonus die. They also get, there's just some other benefits.
Yeah, they can take ground and do bonus melees, and a lot of card play plays off of those things as well.
Actually, a lot of your combat cards are devoted in the Jacobite side to enhancing or increasing your hand-to-hand combat. But, they've also got cavalry. There's artillery. It was interesting, the distinctions between the units are not as much as, say, Napoleonics.
Yeah.
Napoleonics, you always feel like you've got a new named guy or a type of guy who just does some things a little differently. These, I felt like our units were mostly the same, with the exception of those Highlanders.
It's amazing how much difference 100 years makes with combat, because I feel like you're right, especially with all the expansions. Napoleonics, the units get quite granular in a way, where there's so many differentiations between all the different infantry units, for example.
Whereas, they each had a role.
Yeah. In this one, it's, I had regulars. That's all I had. But there's not really. There's regulars and militia. That's basically it.
Yep.
And for you, there's lowlanders, highlanders, and regulars.
I think our cavalry were pretty much the same.
Yeah, there's basically regular cavalry and light cavalry, so you don't have all like the heavy cavalry or the hussars or all this other stuff. And the artillery, once we use any in this particular scenario, the artillery is basically trained or light. There's two types of cavalry of artillery, and they don't use them as much. Dragging artillery pieces around in this terrain. Not the funnest of things to have done.
Well, yeah.
Right, these aren't the open plains of Europe.
Yeah, a lot of mountains and hills and forest and bogs, But back to that comment about the difference between Napoleonics, I do love that movie, the newest movie on the Alamo. I don't know if you've seen it, with Billy Bob Thornton. It's actually pretty good in parts. Some parts it's like, eh. But the thing that has always stuck out about me in that movie is as Santa Anna's army is attacking the walls, they're coming in, they've got these dudes in the back that literally, there's like 8 of them, and they're carrying these big 2-handed axes, and they almost appeared to have some leather armor, like thicker clothing on, but their only role was to run up and hack the walls, like literally.
To knock the walls down?
Yeah, well, not necessarily knock them, but it was like they were trying to get into the doors, or kind of as the defenders looked over, they were trying to hack them as they were trying to build up. So the reason I bring that up is I feel like the Napoleonics has a lot of that.
Right.
You've got guys with little roles and jobs, and that's not the case. And that's okay, because it keeps it a little more simple, a little lighter.
I agree with that.
But it adds some variety. Like, I enjoyed those Highlanders. The other thing is when you're playing that, when I'm playing the Highlander side, I want to run up and get into melee. So it gives me a key into what my strategy should be. At the outset of the game, I thought you were more aggressive than me, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Because I was in the back trying to order my lines, because we'll talk about that, but lines in this game...
Very important.
Very important for movement and activation, but also for morale checks, and So it's just, to me, it gives you a hint into what your style should be. You had a lot of cavalry there, and I think you used those very well to come up and try to sweep me. And so anyway, there's some hints into strategy. There's some different types of units, but not to the depth of Napoleonics.
Yeah, and you can tell because all your units are on one page instead of Napoleonics where they're on like 6.
Yeah, right. And that does make for... I love Napoleonics. I'll play that one probably over a majority of the others, except for Ancients. I always love Ancients.
But this keeps it. I don't know. This is.
It's simpler.
Yeah, it's very accessible.
Yeah.
In that way.
When I'm looking at that player aid card from Napoleonics, I'm like, okay, how are my hussars different?
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at my page of stuff and then comparing it with your page of stuff.
It becomes too much.
There's really like 5 units on each side, 6, 7.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. Everything's on one page. It's really, really nice. Very convenient.
And I like also that, the regulars, we have the same type of units.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you even have... Anyway, there's different types of Highlander units. You didn't have any of those because there were some that worked on both sides. But this is much lighter. Interesting. Did we have a different experience with this one than we did Tricorn? Because I felt like this game was much quicker.
Yes. So I would say big part of that is with we knew the rules, right?
Yeah, we absolutely knew the rules because we've already played it a couple of times, and
they're the same rules. The same as Tricorn.
Yeah.
So the rules uptake was like 15 minutes of me checking for anything new,
looking at the cards,
and making sure that we understood the roles that leaders play, morale, and retreats and rallies, because those are the things where you don't want to mess those up. Basically, combat's easy; it's all on the played card.
Yeah.
So it was very easy to uptake this, and I don't know, knowing the rules, I felt like, and we also had some piss poor morale rolls.
I think we did in Tricorn as well.
But it just
full divisions or full groups died.
I felt like this played quicker, and I think part of that is that you're encouraged in a lot of the scenarios to do more melee combat. I think melee combat is more lethal.
It's a little more lethal.
When you're moving and shooting, you're more often than not rolling one die.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to do anything on one die. So
Whereas,
you're plinking each other back and forth a lot in that. Whereas this one, when you charge into melee, especially with Highlanders, you lose a die for movement, but you gain a bonus die. You're rolling a couple. I'm going to roll...
You fight back.
If you don't... So there's a lot more friction and action, so you're more likely to take wounds. You're more likely to retreat. And the more likely you are to do both of those things, the more likely you are to have to make morale checks.
Yeah.
The more you take, the more you're going to fail at some point.
So I think in the end, while our comment, I think, about Tricorn was the games can seem to go a little longer, I think we need to now edit that and say the games, I think, have a lot more potential to be shorter.
Yeah, I think in this one, there's more melee combat, generally, and that's going to make for a shorter game as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree.
But the other aspect of this one that I don't know if I like it more than Tricorn is I feel like the two sides are more different.
Yeah.
In the sense that as the government side, I feel like I was a more traditional force of the period. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to establish my battle lines, get everyone in lines, do some shooting, and do some melee when I have to. Mm-hmm. Whereas I felt like the Jacobite side...
I was trying to be more chaos generating.
You want to get into melee more than I do.
Agreed.
And whereas Tricorn, it's 2 lines of guys shooting each other.
It's pretty much,
And there's some nuance in that, but I felt like we were both, that was our goal, is to establish lines and just shoot each other.
Not so much in this one, although... Keeping those lines is important.
Keeping lines very important, especially for issuing orders and morale. But I felt like we both had different ways we wanted to do combat based on our unit composition. And I felt like that was more pronounced in this game than the other one.
I would agree.
Which I enjoyed. I enjoy when you get, different forces at work and seeing how those doctrines interact with each other. I think that's interesting.
Well, and I think my deck of combat cards was much more tailored to melee than even yours. I don't think it was overly that big of a difference, but there were some key cards that it was like, you're going to do a Highland charge. So it's like, I'm trying to do that every time.
Yeah.
Every time I can get that to happen, we're going to do that.
Yeah. So you get the combat cards, and the combat cards have been around for a while in different iterations of the game.
And I love them. I actually really enjoy them.
I always like combat cards in a game.
Well, they just add some variety.
They add good flavor.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, the ones that don't have it are like the very simple beginner games. This is like, you get a extra deck of cards, it's a little bit extra to read and think about, and like, it's a bit more tactically rich typically as well.
Agree, yeah.
But
it is tactically rich, but I'm not sure it's tactically sound, because a lot of them are just, it's just like, oh, you roll 4 dice and yay, you formed your entire unit. It leads to some odd outcomes, but they're fun.
Yeah, but it's you get those extra choices of when and how to use those things.
Right.
I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yours, so probably like 80% of the decks are the same. Mm-hmm. And then there's that little bit that's really different and asymmetric. Right. So mine, I had, what was it called? I had it right here. I had my different line volleys and line commands.
Yeah.
Where every unit that is adjacent in contiguous lines, and it can be along the whole board.
It can be 15 hexes, yep.
Everyone gets to shoot at +1. You can't move, but you're like, yes, that is my government-run regular army doctrine, right? Yeah. That's what I should be doing or trying to establish. Right. And bang, you start getting those firing going. Good job.
So you want to convert, then you want to move your guys up more in a line. You want to try it so that you can make that happen. I was trying to get my leaders in these formations but in pockets, because they were going to do charges and run out in melee. I didn't really care that it was across the board, because I can't shoot. I have to be adjacent.
Yeah.
So literally the Highlanders, they can't attack unless they're adjacent. So there's some differences there.
Yeah.
And I did like that.
And it's, it's not massive, but when it does come out, you're like,
yeah.
Like it paid off, and it felt
yep.
felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do.
It worked.
Yeah. That's always enjoyable in these games. What I'll do is I'll show you the board and just some of how it works, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. As you can see, it's just a large board with these really big hexes printed on it, and it's divided up into these 3 sections. You can see this dotted line that kind of goes down here, and there's one here. So you have left flank, center, and then the right flank. Typically, you will deploy your units on this side, and the opponent will deploy them on this edge, and this is considered your baseline. So when you retreat, you're retreating this way, or you're retreating that way. They try to keep it very simple in that sense. The units are made up of blocks which have stickers on them. So you do have to put stickers on these. And this isn't a hidden block game, so it's double-sided. And we had a discussion earlier in the year. You have to make sure that your wood grain is in line with your stickers, otherwise you're not stickering correctly. So there you go. Ruined your lives. But a unit, so these are Highlanders. Every unit has 4 blocks. They kept that simple. Other games, you might have different amounts of blocks in them. They tried to keep it real simple in this one. When you take wounds, and take losses, you just remove blocks equal to the number of losses that you took. This one does not have diminishing returns on the blocks that you have with combat. What I mean by that is some games, you'd roll 1 block per die, for example. Or 1 die per block, I apologize. In this one, it's just, this unit rolls 2 dice in melee, for example. And even if you lose 3 guys, you still roll 2 dice. Whereas in other CNC games, you would roll dice equal to the blocks, so you'd have fewer dice the more wounds you took. Again, try to streamline that. Some people like it, some people don't. That's just how this one is. The big thing that we've talked about is the morale checks. And this is common in Tricorn as well. So when you get into combat, if you ever have to retreat because you suffered a bunch of flag results, and we'll look at the dice here in a second, if you retreat, you have to then roll more dice to see if you completely rout off the board. And that's a way where you'll be eliminated and you give up a victory point in that sense. I think Tricorn was the only other one to do that in that way that I can remember. And it changes the game, because in other CNC games, it's a lot of attrition. You're literally just trying to kill units, and so then you're charging single units who have run away, or you're trying to take a lot of objective spaces. The objectives in this one, and per the scenarios, are often quite difficult, but you're often going to score points, not from eliminating full units, but eliminating enough, forcing a retreat, and then making them pass a morale check, which gets pretty dicey. No pun intended. So let's take a quick look at the dice. What I like in this one is that where tricorn were these tiny little kind of... I don't even know how you describe it, but they were like printed dice. Here they're much bigger, they're much chunkier, and they're fully embossed and like painted in the middle, which is nice. These are nice to play with. But when you roll dice, you're just looking for... Oh gosh, okay. You're looking for symbols. Some of them won't pick up well on the camera, because the cavalry is blue, infantry is yellow, artillery is red, then these crossed sabers, which is for some units can benefit from those, and then there's flags, and the flags are on two sides. So when I attack, I'm rolling dice, and I'm looking to match the dice face with the victim of the attack. So if I'm an infantry unit, I'm attacking an infantry unit. What matters is that the enemy is an infantry unit. Let's say I'm in melee combat, I'm going to roll 2 dice. So I rolled 2 dice, and that was 2 horses, so that doesn't do anything. If I had rolled 2 infantry, I would literally just kill 2 infantry units. When you're in melee combat, you can benefit from a crossed saber. So a saber would be a hit to anyone you were in melee combat with. So that's nice. Melee combat's a bit more bloody in that way. There are, however, on the unit matrix, some units, like I think militia, and I feel like there's some other ones as well, that they cannot benefit from the saber rolls because they're not well trained in the hand-to-hand combat, so they have fewer opportunities to do hits, basically. But this would be 2 hits, or sometimes you might roll a hit and a flag. So you take a hit, and then a flag is a retreat. They have to move 1 space towards their baseline in this direction. If you have to retreat any number of spaces, you have to make a morale check. And you make a morale check by rolling dice equal to the number of blocks that are left in the unit. And to make a morale check, all you're doing is looking for, oh my gosh, any number of flags. You just need 1 flag. And across 3 dice, I messed it up and didn't roll any. And so this is a morale check, and it can be harsh. She is a harsh mistress. This means they rout off the board completely, and they give up a victory point. So they're gone. It's like they're fully eliminated. That's not great. Doesn't feel good when that happens. But you kind of have to consult the dice. Each dice has 2 flag sides. You get 1 in 3 chance of rolling on here and on each of these. And you, again, only need 1 to pass your test. So it's very unlikely that you lose big chunks of units, but it can happen and it feels awful. If you are with a leader, you roll an extra dice. So you might have 4. If you're a full strength unit, you roll 4 dice, 1 for each, and you roll an extra dice because you're full strength. And if you have a leader, you're going to roll another 1 as well. So you can get into some pretty significant like negations of these morale checks by stacking units and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the morale check, that's a big part of this game. Now, the one thing that you want to try to do to counter those morale checks is to try to not roll them in the first place. And to do that, you are much more interested in forming your battle lines. And the rules are that if you are adjacent to 2 friendly units, you ignore a flag that's rolled against you in attack. So let's say I attack with 2 dice. I rolled... that's funny, of course. I rolled 2 flags. That means you have to retreat 2 spaces normally. Well, I can ignore 1 of those because I'm adjacent to 2 units. Unfortunately, I got to make a retreat. But if I had, if it had been a hit or a miss, I would just take a hit or a miss and I would ignore the flag completely. Or, if I've got a lone leader, he has to be on his own, and he's backing up the line, he's back there shouting like, stand your ground, all that kind of stuff. He can also allow me to ignore a flag. So you can ignore a couple flags if you're adjacent to units and your leader's nearby. So then you don't even have to take the morale check. So this kind of stuff's really, really important with how you form your lines and keep your leaders together. So with the card play, you're going to play a card from these command cards, and that's going to give you orders about who you can order. Then you have this deck, which is unique to each faction, of combat cards. And these are like, oh, you can do this extra special rule-breaking thing, or you get a couple extra dice in melee, or some neat bits and pieces. You can optionally use those if and when you want to. But really, the game is about eliminating enemy units, forcing them off the board, because you get a victory point for that. And that's really the core of it. The nice part of these games that I really like is the different unit makeup. So you have, different types of infantry. They'll fight at different strengths. They might be good in melee. They might be good in ranged combat. They might be able to move an extra space. They might have some extra bonuses to rally checks and morale checks. But you get good flavor in that. And then, you've got things like cavalry. Well, they can move 2 spaces, and they can attack in melee, and they don't take a movement dice penalty. So you can charge those guys around doing stuff. You got cannons that can shoot really long range. Not particularly strong, but if you can plink a couple guys before they get into melee, they're much weaker and easier to combat back as well. Also, one other thing about cavalry units, when you set up your game, you organize all your forces. You usually have them kind of like this. I like to have my cavalry in diamond formation, so now you know how to play your game properly as well. And before my house falls down for everyone upstairs, we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the map, and
a comment about the map.
Sure.
These maps are just basic. The only difference is the tiles.
Yeah.
And these are double-sided terrain tiles. I like this. I frankly, the map's boring as hell to look at, but when you've got these little cool terrain tiles, it changes it, and it makes it more functional.
I actually really like this style of like the woods and the hills. Mm-hmm. The artwork style is actually quite nice. Some of the older Commands and Colors games, it's a bit more, I don't know.
Like Ancients, I feel like it's
a bit more functional.
Yeah, it's almost like it almost doesn't look real.
They're older, right? It's just like, this is what this terrain is.
This is better graphic design. Like, that hill looks really good.
Yeah, like those are cute and nice.
Some buildings, yeah. But I enjoy that. I know you talked about that a little bit on the board, but I do enjoy those little tiles because it makes. I mean, you could even create your own scenarios and make some very interesting situations. Maybe give one side more, they need more flags to win than the other side because the other side's got to charge you up hills. But yeah, I like that. That's my comment about the board. I wanted to get that in.
This is a game that, before you start making your own stuff, you get 16 scenarios in it.
Yeah.
And this is one of those games where you play it, takes an hour, you switch sides, play it again, and then you take the aggregate of the scores. A lot of people do that kind of thing. Yep. So really, you could double that.
So
before you've seen everything.
Yeah, like 30 some odd scenarios then.
And then there's also, we have the Kickstarter came with like 2 extra bonus scenarios. Yeah. And for Tricorn, when we bought that at WBC, they had those as well.
Yeah.
So, there might be ways to get those outside of the Kickstarter. Can't make any guarantees on it.
Well, and there are always fan-made scenarios for the different
you can go online.
You can go on BGG, or I think there's a commandandcolors.org.
I'm sure.
And you can literally download new scenarios. But yeah, this is going to be a game. I think you're going to invest in this, right? It's an $80 to $100 game because lots of wood, nice cards. You're going to invest in this, and you're going to play it. I mean, you're going to play this 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a month, and next month you're going to play it 5, 6, 7, 8 times again. And people do that. We see it all over Twitter and Facebook. This is something also you could teach your children the basics of combat and the card system, and really get them, I think, their whistle wetted for war games.
Yeah, I think because of that, I think that's why the system's so popular. It's because it's really easy to play with family members.
And there's still enough fun for you and I that we have a good time playing
it. It's not, you're not getting bogged down in it. It's not massively long, which is a big turn-off to a lot of people, I think.
45 minutes, I think, is
play
most
some
of
cards,
these scenarios.
Roll some dice.
Yeah.
Have a good time. It's just fun. It's enjoyable. Yeah. Right?
Well, and I will make this comment. I hate the morale rule, but I understand it. We talk about it. I just hate it. you made a charge, you killed 2 or 3 of your units, you battle back, you rolled 3 flags, and it's like, oh, my guys just died.
And so
because I didn't make the roll. But it's hard to not make the roll.
There's some things that I hate in war games, right? Do you hate it because you don't think it's good, or do you hate it because it doesn't feel good when it happens? It doesn't feel
good when it happens.
Because there's a big difference between them.
But I made that comment to you during the game. The only thing I really have a problem with when a full 4-unit, fully healthy formation breaks, I have problems with that. That's my opinion.
Yes.
If you've lost a couple units, I understand that. And that's the way the rules are. You roll 4 or 5 dice when you got a full thing, so you shouldn't miss it.
And if you do,
shame on you.
That is shame on you.
Yeah, but it's random.
Weirdly,
right?
it happens.
It happens a lot. And I'm totally okay with it when it's down to 1 unit and you're just rolling 1 die and you got to roll a flag and there's only, 2 on each die? Yeah, there's 2 flat. So it's like 1 in 3 chance. Oh, look, I succeeded. That hurt. That doesn't feel good either.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but anyway, that's it. I probably don't like it because it doesn't feel good.
Which is entirely fair.
Yeah.
Because when it's just weird for the games we've played of this and Tricorn, I felt like that happened probably 2 or 3 times where it was like a full unit, just like rolling 5 dice, getting nothing, and then they have to leave and like,
oh, that doesn't feel good. Yeah. But it keeps the game light. It keeps the game quick. You know, when you've got to get to 6 flags, not 6 Flags the theme park, but 6 flags to win the game. Don't start laughing. 6 flags to win the game. That can make it really quick. I mean,
yes.
And for example, in the course of that scenario we played, you had like 3 flags pretty quick.
Yeah, it's funny. I think probably between us, because this was first to 6, and there was 11 flags taken. You won by 1 flag, and I think this was a game where we probably between us eliminated 4 units, and the rest of it was flags.
The rest of it was morale check fails.
Morale check failures.
Yep. So once again, keeps it light, keeps it simple.
Yeah, it keeps it going as well.
Yeah, I also, and you know this about me, I like the tactical combat system concepts of war games. I enjoy using combined arms and flank attacks and concentric attacks and all these modifiers because it feels more tactical. This one, it just feels lighter, and that's why it probably bothers me.
Yeah.
Because it's just not as, I don't want to use the word realistic because I never fought on these battlefields in the Highlands, and maybe it was completely realistic.
No, yeah, but that's the age-old argument of sacrificing realism for playability.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, so, you're sacrificing some elements to keep this to an hour war game where you're moving guys, rolling some dice, having a good time.
Where ASL type game, it's everything from spotting to movement to firing range. I mean, it's everything.
Yes, you can go for all of the crunch, but then the uptake for that is much more severe than something like this.
Yeah. So one comment, I think we made this early on, that battle line concept is so key for many reasons. Those morale checks can be overcome. Those flags can be overcome when you have a static, consistent line, because a unit adjacent to 2 friendly units ignores a flag.
Yes.
Then, with a leader, it ignores another flag. If you're on top of a hill, you ignore another. So it comes to that point. You get 3-4 units together in good terrain with a leader, you can ignore a lot of those, and that's what the game is about.
And if you ignore the flags, you then just don't have to make the morale check.
Right, exactly.
So you're like, that's the kind of stuff that I like. That's where the little nuance and the neatness comes in the system. I like that, making your battle lines and positioning units where they need to be, protecting your flanks, because the guys on the end aren't going to be adjacent to 2 units, so you've got to protect them somehow. Yep. Get your leaders out there, or do other bits and pieces. Yeah. There's cute things to think about that, I don't feel unsatisfied playing this.
Well, and I think that is one thing that I really feel a great deal of satisfaction about. How many times did we play one command card just to move, like a scout, to move one leader 1 or 2 spaces to get him behind a line of guys? I did that a couple of times, trying to keep the integrity of that battle line. That feels rewarding and good.
Yes.
It doesn't always feel good just to play a card to do that, but it feels good, and I like that element of it. I just don't like it when you have a full formation that misses the roll. But that's what keeps it light and keeps it a game.
Yes.
Without that, this game would probably drag on. Actually, it wouldn't drag on as much as, say, Tricorn because of the morale or the melee stuff.
It still would make it longer, right?
It would.
The morale checks and their failures is what keeps this at the same pace as other Commands and Colors games, with how difficult ranged combat is.
Yeah, you're just like rolling. It reminds me of the Ancients when you're throwing spears. With
that was...
it's like...
Was that Ancients? No,
I think it was medieval.
Medieval ranged
shooting
combat.
One die. We should have been charging in, but it's like... So anyway, you got to overcome that. You got to use your strengths.
Yes.
So these games feel good. I love them. There's just some things I don't like, but it's all in the realm of trying to be a fun, playable game.
Yeah. So, Commands and Colors Tricorn, Jacobite Rising. It is standalone. You do not need Tricorn for this. It comes with the board, comes with all the cards. This is its own game. It uses the same core system, which is good. And it's a theme which some people will like. Right?
Some will not, yeah.
It's a theme where I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Even though you're from that big island.
Yes, but we've got 1,000 years of fighting wars.
We've only got
I don't know them all.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. I think that's a good point.
So, yes. And this particular one doesn't define my nation's identity like others.
Right.
So, yeah. But this is a nice way to play through and learn the history, because you get a nice little, not overly long, little background paragraph or two for each battle that happens. Playing through them is a nice way to learn all that kind of stuff. You get to engage with something that's, frankly, for me, new. And have fun doing it. Yeah. It's enjoyable.
Well, the interesting thing, we play a lot of other games. Here I Stand is one that I think about a lot. And Imperial Struggle, which we played new this year that we really liked. It always has that Jacobite element in there. And we're like, I don't really know much about it. For me, maybe you know more than I do. You probably do. But it's always like, when I play this game, now I'm like, next time we play it, I understand a little bit more about that war and that struggle and that uprising and what it meant and what it did and why it's reflected in those games.
Oh, yeah, and why it's something that's been continually ongoing, frankly, for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this game a lot. It gave me something new from a topic standpoint, which is, for me, always good. That's one of the big reasons I like playing war games.
Yeah, to learn.
It exposes me to new things and new elements of history, but it's a system we knew, which also helped, because then it was really easy to learn.
Get on the table and play quick.
Plays quickly, and it's enjoyable, and anyone can play this. That's really, really good.
What's the age?
I don't have the bottom of the box. It's on the back of that.
Sorry.
If it even
I'm just always curious.
Like 12 plus.
I don't see it. But my guess is, I think my 9-year-old daughter, Marin, could get this. She's a bright little kid.
Yeah.
Young lady, I should say. And she could get this. So keep that in mind. Yes. I think these are things you could play with Atticus.
Probably. If
he might throw the blocks
if he was interested in it.
Yeah, right. But anyway.
Yes. The enjoyable game. Check it out if you want it. It's not the cheapest of all games.
No, you're paying for the wood.
But it's made here in the US, which is why Compass Games is so expensive.
Yep.
So you're supporting the local business as well in that sense, which is good. And also on top of that, there's a lot of replay value in this, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a game where if you buy it and play it once, that's on you.
Yeah, if you spend the money and you play it once, you've got more opportunities to play this.
Also, Compass often they'll have an annual sale, typically.
Yep.
And if you go to conventions and they're there, so places like WBC,
they're 40% off usually.
You get this kind of stuff. Yeah. That's where you
Isn't that where we bought Tricorn?
Yep.
Because it was normally like $90.
I think it was like 110, 120.
Yeah, so we bought it for like 50.
We got it, so you can get good prices on them if you can wait for a second.
Yeah, right.
Or if not, you just jump on it because it's a game and you can enjoy it. It's no big deal about that. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Commands and Colors Tricorn Jacobite Rising by Richard Borg from Compass Games. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.